Good morning, Mars! You join us today in our very first Salvage Show, where we have set up our special Salvage Arena for our contestants. Today's event will not be a race, it will be a chance for our contestants to get more scrap metal. Today's lineup involves the contestants who are further down the rankings. This is so they have a chance to catch up and use that scrap metal to make their rides better. First up is the bounty hunter Xanadu, who I think could do with more weapons on her vehicle, the 8 o'clock. Next up, we have the boys from the Dust Dragons, Cox and Turbo. They come from a well-established gang, so I am not sure why they are so ill-equipped at the moment. They enter today's race with a pistol, a magnum, and the front-mounted ram on Catfish. And speaking of ill-equipped, now we have Asura in the car Asura. Their only weapon is also a front-mounted ram and the handgun with Asura themselves. I have heard tell that this particular driver is dedicated to the idea of not arming themselves. We'll see how that plays out. And lastly, we have Dr. Vitus in the very suspect vehicle, the Death Trap. There is a mine layer on that thing, but Dr. Vitus has not used it yet. This vehicle is capable of extreme speed, but I don't think it will be able to leverage it in this environment. And what an environment it is! We set up our salvage runs in the Cement City outskirts, making sure to pick a spot with lots of scrap. We make sure our piles of garbage are safe to drive through so that our contestants can give us an entertaining a show as possible. The name of this game is to do as much damage to the scrap and to each other as they can. Our committee is on hand to evaluate the damage done and to assign it a numerical value at the end of the game. The game automatically ends at the time limit or if there are 2 wrecked vehicles, whichever comes first. Any damaged vehicles caused will translate to points at the end of the game, so the name of the game is very much Destruction. Whoever comes away with the highest score at the end will be declared the winner. And it looks like our contestants are ready, so let us begin the Salvage Show. Catfish starts driving to the center. The junk on the periphery is easier to take down, but the junk in the center is higher value. Skox and Tugo smash apart a pile of garbage with their handguns. They are scoring points right out the gate as this type of event seems to be right up their alley. Dr. Vitus now drives the Death Trap towards the center as well. He does not have much in terms of weaponry and I don't think his mines will be too useful here. He does, however, still have the handgun which he uses to clean up this pile of junk. Doc Vitus is unlikely to get any use out of his mine layer, but he is in a fast car and he can ram into these piles of junk without fear of getting damaged. Xanadu might do better on the gun front as the 8 o'clock is armed with a machine gun. Like the mine layer, their oil slick dropper will not be of much use here. It does not look like a good start for Xanadu though, as she completely misses that sign. Asura should have no problem shooting junk and garbage, and they do have a front-mounted ram, which will be a massive help keeping them stable if they choose to plow through these scrap heaps. They are not quite making a beeline for the center. They could choose to since they do have a nitro booster on the car. Asura manages to take out the road sign with their handgun. Let's see how willing they are to use that handgun on the other contestants. Turbo now will try and take a hard right, which will send the Catfish right into the old stoplight. Cement City's smooth streets do allow for some trixier driving. The outskirts would make for an ideal drag strip if it weren't for all the piles of scrap. The old hunk of metal is no match for the speeding buggy's ram and it is destroyed. The Dust Dragon boys look to be in their element here as they quickly rack up the points. They are now eyeballing one of those colored wrecks by the center. Skox and Turbo unload onto one of the green wrecks by the center of the arena, but they completely miss. These wrecks can take a bit more damage and are worth a little bit more points. Dr. Vitus now continues to send the Death Trap in a straight line, and it also looks like he is trying to get it as fast as he can. It will not take much to get rid of that rust bucket in front of him, but he is still driving a very light car. A collision may be relatively harmless, but there is still the potential for the impact of the crash to send your vehicle out of control. but it does not look like Dr. Vitus has any intention of slowing down. Xanadu has some catching up to do as she has not managed to do any damage so far. The 8 o'clock is a pursuit vehicle and it is not really spec'd out for this kind of activity. However, it is on the drivers to make sure they have the ability to approach any situation we throw at them. And it looks like Xanadu has decided to just start ramming things here, going into that stack of pallets with the front end of her vehicle. The flimsy stack is obliterated and she finishes up with a handbrake turn. The 8 o'clock opens up on that colored wreck at the apex of the drift and completely misses. That's some impressive driving, at least. And it looks like Asura is going to join everybody else at the center of the arena. The center is an old park and is not meant to be driven on, so it will be a little bit rougher than the rest of the arena. That said, Azura is looking pretty in control coming into the action. A proper reinforced ram attached to a car that can go as fast as Asura is nothing to be sneezed at. They take a pot shot on the approach and manage to shatter another scrap heap with their handgun. Moderate points for all the contestants now, but I have a feeling the real carnage is just about to begin. The Dust Dragon Boys, Cox and Turbo, now look to be driving towards the middle of the fray. They missed that wreck earlier with their guns, but it looks like they're making sure they won't miss it with the car. Turbo takes a hard left and lands the catfish right into the green wreck and into the center of the arena. Initially, it does not look like they can come at the wreck with quite enough force. But Turbo manages to send their buggy into just the right kind of drift, which sends their ram into a slashing motion. And with that, it is just enough to completely destroy the green wreck. Dr. Vitus looks to be trying to do the same thing with the death trap on the purple wreck. He does not have the advantage of a ram though, and he is again driving an extremely light vehicle. But this is not stopping him from trying to reach top speed here. And the good doctor pulls it off, completely destroying the purple wreck. However, he is not done moving, and he is sent straight into the middle of the arena, into that stack of pallets. The wooden stack does not stand much of a chance, and it is completely destroyed. Dr. Vitus has done a ton of damage in one acceleration and is likely leading the pack at the moment. As he moves through the center, he sends a cheeky pot shot at Catfish with his handgun. Turbo anticipates it though and gets out of the way of the bullets. However, after all of that ramming and driving over curbs, Doc Vitus is just about to lose control of the death trap. The dragster completely flips and goes flying into the orange wreck. Any damage done here will still be to Vitus' credit, however. And while he does do some damage, he does not do enough to destroy the wreck. And the crash has flat out stopped Dr. Vitus. He has already done a ton of damage, but it will take him a while to roll back up to speed. Xanadu witnesses all of this happen, and that just reinforces her decision to send the 8 o'clock into the orange wreck. With the little bit of damage already done by the death trap, Xanadu manages to force the 8 o'clock through what remains of the wreck. Xanadu also wrestles the 8 o'clock back into control, averting a potential crash. She perfectly lines up her car for a clean shot at Catfish. She finally manages to score some shots, perforating the buggy with her machine gun. This takes a big chunk out of the Catfish. All of the contestants so far have managed to take down one of the colored wrecks each, and it looks like Asura is going to try to do the same. They have already built up a decent amount of speed, so if they hit that wreck with their ram, it should render it roadkill. Azura bursts through that wreck like a pre-war mascot and joins the rest of the contestants on the middle of the arena. In this small area, they will not benefit from the improved handling given by Cement City's ubiquitous pavement. Asura drifts in, attempting a pot shot at 8 o'clock but misses completely. As the speeds get higher, only a couple of contestants are able to maintain the space to maneuver. Turbo attempts to swerve Catfish into any one of the other contestants. He displays a mastery over the buggy and manages to wrangle it under control. Driving this safe, however, means he does not ram into anybody. The Dust Dragons, however, are happy to take a shot at Asura with their handguns, nailing the car and getting some points. Asura still has some momentum, however, and will be able to go for what looks to be a high-speed ram. Asura is wrenched into the right position and slams into the side of Catfish. This could be it for Skox and Turbo. That could have gone much worse, but the Catfish manages to dodge out of the way just in time. The salvage arena is looking much emptier than it was as our contestants rip through it. Everybody's done a bit of damage, scored a bit of points, and taken a bit of a beating, but everyone is still very much in the game. As I say that, Catfish makes a dramatic turn trying to take down the Asura with a well-placed ram. Turbo continues his excellent driving and gets the buggy right exactly where he needs it to go. The Dust Dragon boys score a solid hit on Asura, but it is not enough to take out the muscle car. In fact, it is enough to propel the Asura's high-powered engine into further action. Asura floors the pedal and heads straight towards Xanadu in the 8 o'clock, attempting another T-bone ram. At that speed, that could be it. Asura does not land a solid enough blow, and the 8 o'clock uses the opportunity to carry on its momentum. Using the same trick as the Asura, Xanadu pushes the 8 o'clock into position, chasing down the already badly damaged Catfish. She lines up that front-mounted machine gun and attempts to finish off the buggy. That was almost it, but some fantastic dodging from Turbo lets Catfish go a little bit longer. Dr. Vitus finally builds up enough speed to rejoin the race. There is not much room to maneuver, but I do not think that is what he is planning to do. He sends the death trap straight into Catfish. Vitus picks up speed as he rams into the buggy, and the Catfish in turn also decides to smash into him. It's a head-on collision. Both of the smaller vehicles are consumed by a modest fireball as Dr. Vitus's death trap explodes for the second time this month. The explosion blasts out and affects both Asura and 8 o'clock. Both vehicles are able to survive the blast, however the shockwave will be enough to drive them both out of control. They are both going at speed, so these could be very risky wipeouts indeed. Asura is flipped and immediately wrecked as they have already taken a whole bunch of damage. 8 o'clock is a bit slower, but Xanadu still cannot handle the explosion and the car flips out of control and is also wrecked. That was an interesting end to the event for sure. Nobody escapes unscathed, but the one who's dealt the least damage today is Xanadu in the 8 o'clock. She scores a total of 7 points, possibly more if she had hit with that machine gun. Asura takes home 10 points today, racking up the salvage with those big ramming attacks. I would say their performance would have been the best for the day if not for the little complication at the end of the event. Good job, Asura. The Catfish manages to beat out Asura just by 1 point. The Dust Dragon boys are quite accurate with their shots and that might have edged them out in this competition today. I'm sure their slime antics have also pleased their Martian fans back home. And of course our clear and somewhat surprising winner, Dr. Vitus in the Death Trap. Today he has managed to rack up a total of 14 points in Salvage, the first ever record for the Salvage Show. Doc Vitus has by no means been a standard competitor, and I am sure there is a sponsor out there willing to accommodate him. And Martian citizens, that is us for this pre-recording. Thank you very much for watching our very first Salvage Show. I am sure the contestants will put all that scrap they found to good use. Next week, the top bracket contestants will have a show, and we will finalize the scores for the second leaderboard cycle. Until next time. y'all, and welcome to the end of today's episode. I especially enjoyed how today's episode turned out, especially considering we are running one of my custom scenarios. The Salvage Show is basically automated salvage just tweaked for my purposes. It's going to be one of the things I eventually put onto the document PDF Word file that I am currently making, which covers the technicalities of the campaign that is centered around using single cars as opposed to teams. Once I have that formalized, people can use that to play their own solo campaigns, or they can play it with a small group of friends as well. The games can go pretty fast, so if you're looking to play like 2 to 3 games a game night, it's a pretty good way to do it. This also marks the 3rd episode, and it will be the point where I slowed down releases a bit. The last month's releases were intended to get my head around how this whole YouTube thing works, and I do think it has served that purpose well. But now I have to go back to doing some IRL stuff on the reg, so I'm gonna have to tone down the release schedule a bit. I'm considering releasing some hobby-related stuff on the side, because that stuff is easier to shoot, and it'll keep the channel active. Cement City will always be worked on in the background, the releases will just not be as frequent. Thanks for sticking around this long. If you have, like and subscribe and all that. I am on Twitter if you want to follow me there. And as always, until next time.